All right, so we're diving into fish oil today, something I'm sure you've been hearing a lot about.
Yeah, it seems like it's everywhere these days.
It really is. Everywhere you turn, there's another article or study about it.
It can get overwhelming pretty quickly.
For sure, and that's why you're here, to help break it all down for us.
That's right. We'll be going through what the science actually says.
Awesome. So let's start with the basics.
Sounds good.
I think most people have at least heard of omega-3s.
Right. Those are EPA and DHA.
Yeah, EPA and DHA. And they're in fish oil, but why are they so important?
They're what we call essential fatty acids.
Essential meaning?
Our bodies can't actually make them on their own.
So we have to get it from somewhere else.
Exactly. Either through our diet.
Like by eating fish?
Exactly. Or by taking supplements.
Okay, makes sense.
And the reason they're so important is that they're involved in a ton of different processes in the body.
Like what?
Well, everything from heart health to brain function, they even play a role in inflammation.
Wow, so they're kind of a big deal.
They really are.
So not just physical health, but mental health too.
There's evidence suggesting that, yeah.
Interesting. I know I've heard about the heart health benefits, but can we get into the specifics of that a little more?
Of course. So one of the biggest benefits that's been shown is with triglycerides.
Triglycerides, those are.
They're a type of fat found in your blood.
Okay, and too much of that is bad.
Right. It's a risk factor for heart disease.
Gotcha. So fish oil helps with that.
It can, yeah. Fish oil has been shown to lower very high triglycerides.
Like significantly.
Significantly, yeah. In fact, for people with severely high triglycerides, doctors often prescribe a specific kind of fish oil.
So this isn't just your average fish oil supplement.
No, this is prescription strength. Like Lavazza is one brand name.
Interesting.
And those have a much higher dose of EPA and DHA.
Like how much higher are we talking?
Thing like 12 regular fish oil capsules.
Wow, okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, so that's really for those with serious triglyceride issues.
So that's one major heart health benefit. Are there others?
There's some promising research on fish oil and heart attacks.
Heart attacks?
Yeah, there was this large study called the GC Prevenzione trial.
Cheesy Prevenzione.
Yeah, and it looked at people who had just had a heart attack.
Oh, wow, okay.
And the people taking fish oil daily had a lower risk of dying from any cause.
Really?
Yeah, and fewer sudden cardiac deaths, which is pretty significant.
That is significant.
And the amount of fish oil they were taking was closer to what you'd find in those over-the-counter supplements.
Okay, it's good to know.
And that same study also found that fish oil seemed to reduce stroke risk.
So good for the heart overall, it seems.
It seems so, yeah. Those omega-3s have pretty strong anti-inflammatory effects,
That makes sense.
which can benefit your entire cardiovascular system.
So if fish oil is so great for the heart, why do we hear so much about eating too much fish, especially certain types of fish?
That's a really important distinction to make. When we're talking about the benefits, we're often talking about the purified omega-3s found in supplements.
I see. So there's a difference between that and just eating a ton of fish.
Exactly, because fish can have mercury and other contaminants that you wouldn't find in the supplements.
So it's like you're getting the good stuff without the bad stuff.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
But for some people, eating fish might be the way to go.
Right. Some people might prefer that, and that's perfectly fine as long as they're being mindful
Mindful of what?
of the types of fish they're eating, making sure they're choosing low mercury options and all that.
Gotcha. So it's about finding what works for you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we've talked about heart health. Are there any other conditions where fish oil might be helpful?
There are a few, yeah. One that comes to mind is angioplasty.
Angioplasty.
It's a procedure they do to open up blocked blood vessels in your heart.
Oh, I see.
And taking fish oil before and after this procedure can actually reduce the chance of it getting blocked again.
So it helps with the long-term effectiveness of the procedure.
It seems to, yeah.
And there was research on this.
Yeah, there have been studies that show this.
Okay, that's really interesting.
And there's also some research suggesting that fish oil could protect your kidneys from damage.
Kidney damage.
Yeah, like from certain medications or even after a kidney transplant.
Okay, so it seems like fish oil could be a valuable tool for a whole range of things.
It could, but it's important to be realistic about its limitations, too.
Right, it's not a cure-all.
Exactly. There's a lot of hype out there, but not all of it's backed up by science.
That's a good point. I know I've heard it touted as a miracle cure for everything under the sun.
Oh yeah, like age-related vision loss, boosting brain power, even clearing up eczema.
Exactly. So what's the truth behind those claims?
Well, unfortunately, it's not quite that simple.
Okay, so break it down for us.
So while there is some early research that eating fish early in life might lower the risk of eczema in kids,
Okay.
the studies haven't shown that fish oil supplements can help with age-related vision loss or memory problems.
So no magic bullet there.
Not that we found yet. And while fish oil might help manage triglycerides in people with diabetes, it won't actually lower their blood sugar.
Okay, so it's important to be discerning and not just believe everything you hear.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about what it can do, but what about what it can't do?
Right. And what about any potential downsides?
Yeah. Is fish oil generally safe to take?
Generally, yes. Up to 3 grams a day seems to be safe for most adults.
Okay, so moderation is key, like with most things.
Exactly.
Now, what about side effects? Are those dreaded fish burps a real thing?
Oh, they're definitely real.
I can only imagine.
And they can be pretty potent, too. Some people also get heartburn, loose stools, even nosebleeds.
Yikes. Anything to help with that?
Taking it with meals can help, or freezing the capsules sometimes helps, too.
Good tips to know.
But it's always best to talk to your doctor before starting any new supplement.
Especially if you're taking other medications or have any health concerns.
Exactly. And there are certain groups who should be extra cautious with fish oil. Pregnant and breastfeeding women, children, anyone with certain conditions like bipolar disorder, liver disease, weakened immunity, those kinds of things.
Okay, so definitely talk to your doctor first.
Always a good idea.
And are there any medications that don't mix well with fish oil?
Yeah, there are a few key ones to watch out for, like if you're on medication for high blood pressure.
Okay.
Fish oil can also lower blood pressure, so taking both together could make it drop too low.
Well, that's important to know.
And birth control pills might reduce fish oil's effects on triglycerides.
Interesting.
And then there are some others, like blood thinners, where there's an increased bleeding risk.
So, again, talk to your doctor.
Always. They can help you weigh the risks and benefits.
Right, so we've covered a lot about fish oil today, what it is, what it can do, what it can't do, safety, side effects, interactions.
That's a lot to take in.
It really is. But I think it shows how important it is to understand the specifics, to go beyond just the headlines.
I completely agree.
Now, before we move on to part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll be looking at specific studies.
Sounds good.
I want to shift gears for a moment. We've been talking about the personal health aspects of fish oil.
Right?
But there's another dimension to consider, the sustainability aspect.
You're talking about the impact on the oceans.
Exactly. The demand for fish oil is huge, so what does that mean for our planet?
It's a complex issue for sure.
It is, but it's one we can't ignore.
Right. Because on the one hand, you have the potential health benefits of fish oil,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, we have to be mindful of the potential consequences of overfishing.
For sure. If everyone starts popping fish oil pills, what happens to the fish?
Exactly. And the overall health of the oceans is a major concern.
So it's about finding a balance.
It is. And there are efforts being made to develop more sustainable sources of omega-3s,
What?
like algae-based supplements.
Okay, so there are options being explored.
Exactly.
Well, this has been incredibly enlightening so far. We've covered so much.
We have, but there's still more to come.
That's right. In part 2, we're going to be diving into some specific studies on fish oil.
Looking forward to it.
I am too, so make sure to join us for that.
See you there.
All right, so we're back for part 2 of our fish oil deep dive.
Ready to get into some more specifics?
Absolutely. In part 1, we talked about those omega-3s and why they're so important.
Right. EPA and DHA.
Exactly. And we touched on some of the potential benefits and risks of fish oil, but I know there's a lot more to explore.
There is, and one of the best ways to really understand what's going on is to look at actual studies.
I agree, because those studies can give you a much more concrete sense of how things work.
Yeah, they cut through a lot of the noise.
Exactly. So where should we start?
Well, we were talking about heart health in the last part.
Right, and all the potential benefits there.
So let's stay on that topic for a bit, but let's look at a specific condition. Rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay, rheumatoid arthritis, and I know we mentioned that fish oil might help ease the symptoms.
Right. But I wanted to share a study that really illustrates this.
Okay, I'm interested to hear about it.
So this study focused on people with active rheumatoid arthritis,
That could mean...
meaning they were experiencing symptoms at the time of the study.
I got it.
and it looked at whether fish oil could help them reduce their reliance on NSAIDs.
NSAIDs are?
Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen or naproxen.
Oh, right. Those are commonly used for pain relief.
Exactly, but they can be tough on the stomach if you're taking them long term.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So finding a more natural way to manage the pain could be really helpful.
Makes sense.
So in this study, the participants were given either fish oil or a placebo for 12 weeks.
Okay. What happened?
Well, the group taking fish oil was actually able to significantly reduce their use of NSAIDs compared to the placebo group.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
It is, and it suggests that fish oil could be a viable option for managing pain and reducing the need for those medications with potential side effects.
That's a great point. So while it might not prevent RA, it can help with managing the symptoms.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's one study on heart health. Anything else?
Yeah, let's switch gears for a bit and talk about age-related macular degeneration.
AMD, right.
That's it. And this is one where you often hear those claims about fish oil being beneficial.
Right, like it can help prevent vision loss.
Exactly. But unfortunately, the research doesn't really support that.
So it's more of a myth than anything.
I'd say so. There was this massive study called AREDS 2.
AREDS 2, what's that stand for?
Age-related eye disease study 2.
Okay, makes sense.
And it involved over 4,000 people.
Wow, that's a huge study.
It was, and they followed these people for up to 6 years.
6 years, that's a long time.
It is, and unfortunately they found that taking fish oil supplements didn't prevent vision loss or slow down its progression in people with AMD.
So no magic bullet for our eyes as we age.
I'm afraid not, but this study is a good example of why it's so important to look at the evidence before jumping to conclusions.
I agree, it's easy to get caught up in the hype, but we have to be critical.
Exactly, and not just believe everything we hear.
So that's AMD. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, let's go back to heart health for a second.
Okay, back to the heart.
Because we mentioned in the last part that fish oil might actually increase the risk of irregular heartbeat in some people.
Yeah, that one surprised me.
I know, it's not what you'd expect to hear.
Right, because we think of fish oil as being good for the heart.
Exactly, but this study looked at data from a bunch of different clinical trials.
Okay, so a pretty thorough analysis.
Yeah, and they found that eating fatty fish or taking fish oil didn't actually reduce the risk of irregular heartbeat.
So it doesn't help.
And in some cases, it might actually increase the risk.
Wow, that's interesting. But I guess it shows that our bodies are complex.
They are, and what works for one person might not work for another.
Right, and that's why personalized medical advice is so crucial.
Absolutely, because it's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
So are there any other studies you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, one more, and this one goes back to angioplasty.
Oh, right, that procedure we talked about earlier.
Exactly, the one where they open up a blocked blood vessel in the heart.
Yeah, so what did this study find?
Well, they looked at whether taking fish oil before and after angioplasty could reduce the risk of that vessel becoming blocked again.
Okay, undid it.
It seemed the group taking fish oil had a significantly lower rate of reblockage compared to the group that didn't.
That's amazing. So it can help with the long-term success of the procedure.
It could, and it's really encouraging evidence for the potential of fish oil in this specific context.
That's great news.
It is, and it shows that fish oil can have a real impact in certain situations.
Okay, so we've looked at a few different studies now, and I'm seeing that there's a lot of nuance to this whole fish oil thing.
There is. It's not as simple as just good or bad.
Right, it's more complex than that.
It's about understanding the specifics and looking at the evidence.
And talking to your doctor to see what's right for you.
Absolutely, because everyone's different.
This has been really eye-opening, and I'm sure our listeners are learning a lot too.
I hope so, because knowledge is power.
It is, and it can help us make better decisions about our health.
Exactly.
We're back for the final part of our fish oil deep dive. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. We've covered so much ground.
I know, right? From those basic omega-3s all the way to specific studies and even those ethical considerations.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. So before we wrap up, I think a quick recap would be helpful.
Agreed, just to tie it all together.
All right, so if you had to sum up the key takeaways about fish oil, what would they be?
Well, I'd say the most important thing to remember is that fish oil is a potent source of those essential omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA.
Right, and they're not just some trendy health thing. They actually play crucial roles in our bodies.
Exactly. They're involved in so many functions. It's pretty amazing.
Like keeping our hearts healthy, supporting our brains, and even helping with inflammation.
All that and more. And we saw that for some conditions, like those very high triglycerides, fish oil can be incredibly effective.
Right, and even for people who've had a heart attack, the research suggests it might offer some protection.
Yeah, some pretty significant benefits there.
And it was interesting to learn about its potential for easing rheumatoid arthritis symptoms and even helping with those blocked blood vessels after angioplasty.
There's definitely a lot of promise there, but we also have to be realistic.
Right, because it's not a cure-all.
Exactly. And those claims about preventing vision loss or boosting brain power, well, the science just isn't there yet.
Yeah, those could be a bit misleading, so it's all about being an informed consumer and not getting swept up in the hype.
Couldn't agree more.
And we can't forget about those potential side effects either.
Oh, yeah, those fishy burps.
Definitely not something you want to deal with.
Not really, and it's important to remember those other possibilities, too, like the heartburn, loose stools, even nosebleeds.
And of course, those interactions with medications, it all highlights why talking to your doctor before starting fish oil is so crucial.
Absolutely. They can help you weigh the risks and benefits and make sure it's a good fit for you.
So personalized advice is key.
Always.
Now, beyond those personal health aspects, there's also that bigger picture to consider.
You mean the impact on our oceans?
Exactly. The demand for fish oil is huge, and that raises some important questions about sustainability.
It does, and I think it's something we all need to be aware of.
We can't just ignore the potential consequences of our choices.
Right. It's about finding a balance between our own well-being and the health of the planet.
And maybe exploring those algae-based omega-3s could be part of the solution.
That's definitely a step in the right direction.
Well, I think we've done it. We've taken a deep dive into the world of fish oil.
And explored it from all angles.
We have the science, the benefits, the risks, even the ethical considerations.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But before we say goodbye, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Oh, I like this.
We've talked a lot about what science tells us about fish oil.
Right, the research, the studies.
But what about your own intuition? How do you feel about incorporating fish oil into your life?
That's a good question, one that everyone needs to answer for themselves.
It is. Trust your inner wisdom as you navigate your own health journey.
Well said.
A huge thank you to you for guiding us through this deep dive. It's been a pleasure learning from you.
The pleasure was all mine, honestly.
And to you, our listener, thank you for joining us on this fascinating exploration of fish oil. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.